Wow. Okay, well, I might have you come back. There's so much to share. So much.
We all do.
Yeah.
Every single one of us has a big, beautiful story to tell.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody, tell your story.
Yeah.
Tell your story. Everything you've been through, everything you've done, all your trials and tribulations are nothing but a spark to light the fire under someone else. It's just so true.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Carla Coleman. Oh my goodness. I've been waiting so long to talk to you because I come to your class on Sundays. It is the highlight of my week.
I love that.
And I wish that I could take your class every day. I keep you with me every day after that. That is my healing, my cleansing, my light, my anchor. But I just started taking your class. It was 2021 when I found your class. And ironically, it was around this time, it was around Thanksgiving time. So Carl and I have never had an opportunity to have conversation because I come to her class and we leave and everybody wants to talk to Carla.
Yeah.
So we're just getting to know each other now, which is such a huge treat for me.
Yeah.
So in 2021, around Thanksgiving time, I remember it was a gratitude focused class. And I think you gave us the lyrics to an Alanis Morissette song.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember going home and printing out those lyrics and keeping them on my desk because of that. And immediately after that, my life changed because the full-time job I had was released unexpectedly. And so I was put into a new trajectory for the following year of doing this kind of work now. I had no idea it was going to happen. I was already helping people with video, but not in the way that it happened after that. So it was just a journey that I've been taking for the last couple of years, and it's allowed me to find my voice again because I had lost it for a while for a lot of different reasons. And this is not about me, but there's just a little background to give you in that you've been a part of me, helping me to find my light again, to find my voice again, to find my power again, so that I can relate to women especially who have found themselves in that place.
One candle lights another.
And I'm going to try not to cry this whole time. But I just want to literally, thank you is not enough. But thank you. And one thing you don't know about me is that many, many years ago, Laura, who is behind the camera helping us, Laura knows me from at least 10, 15 years ago now. I used to have my own yoga studio. And it was just for women, and it was called Siren. And it was just for women. It was on the west side of Madison.
Wow.
And I taught yoga for 4 days a week.
I had no idea.
No, because that was a totally different life. That was back in 2007. So 17 years. And what happens in 17 years of someone's life.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, you brought me back
That's wonderful.
to myself. So
Yeah.
thank you. And so I get to follow a completely different path in this way, taking advantage of the tools and the technology that we have now. And that's the reason I wanted to start something called Visible Women, to keep encouraging women to stay visible online as much as they want to, because we need that energy in front of people. And so I'm inspired by specific women who are keeping themselves visible in different ways, not necessarily online all the time, but just visible in life.
Love that.
And so all the stories that you share, all the inspiration that you share in your class sometimes I feel like, is she psychic? Because she's channeling something that I needed to hear specifically today. And I'm sure every other person in that class feels the same way.
I think it's because we're receptive to, we want to receive. We know what we need to receive. And so we're just open, and in it comes, that's beautiful.
Literally the exact words I needed to hear that day would come out of her mouth. And so I feel like, who's talking through her to me? My parents who have passed over? Who is it? So I want to go back and ask you, how did this all start for you? Where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
What is your history before coming to, this is Perennial Yoga in Fitchburg, Wisconsin. It is like being transported to heaven on earth. And so I'd really love to know how things started for you.
Well, I hope you have a little time.
We got all the time.
One thing I want to say that in regards to what you just said is that when I'm teaching, I often feel that it is coming from someplace higher. It feels like a download. I never worry about it. I don't plan it. I have an idea usually of where I'm going to start, but where it goes is completely up to the energy in the room, the circumstances of the day, the weather, the music, the feelings that are coming into me. And it feels like an energetic gift and something that I receive as well. It's an amazing thing. And the funny thing is that I used to be absolutely terrified of being in front of people. And and more than one person was a group to me. If I had to speak to two people, it was a group, and I would have a very difficult time with it. I'd be very, very nervous. And sometimes when I'm sitting and teaching and talking in that situation, I cannot believe the personal growth that has happened. Life is long and layered, and wherever you are is where you're supposed to be, and the lessons will just keep going on and on and on. And what you were talking about earlier, your own situations, your own difficulties, your own transitions, I believe we're tempered by fire. We learn through the difficulties that life brings us. And one of my first lessons about my own resilience, strength, ability to accept beyond what I absolutely could not control was when I was 26 years old and found I was pregnant with triplets. Yeah, so huge shock. My husband and I lived in a 125-year-old farmhouse with a wood stove. He was a carpenter. I was working for the state. We didn't have money. And all of a sudden,
Wow.
I know. And so there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of, dealing with people's reactions and responses, and my own, how can this be happening, and what am I going to do? How are we going to do this? And I just remember being in tears, just I didn't know what to do. How was I going to handle this? And then having amazing just strength saying, look, you're the only one who can do anything here. And you have to stay strong. You have to stay nourished. You have to stay rested. You know, you have to stay centered. You have to ask for help. And, you know, it turned out it was a beautiful story. My children were born healthy and 3 weeks early. We were all home after a week. I said, who's coming with me? How do you do this?
And so tell me, 3 boys, 3 girls,
2 girls and a boy, and the girls are not identical twins.
Oh, okay.
So 3 fraternal. And, you know, life just took on its own beautiful drama and trajectory from there. And I just remember thinking that I was handed perfect raw material, and it was my responsibility and my husband to see this through in the very best way that we could. And it was, I mean, what an experience of a lifetime, you know? So, but it was the first time I had to like dig down deep and just say, you are so not in charge, except of what decisions you make from here.
And what you can control.
Exactly. How you're going to live your life, what your response to this is going to be.
That reminds me of a quote that I heard just a couple of weeks ago. Circumstances don't matter. Your state of being is what matters, and how you respond to the circumstance.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 It's, it teaches us to what our resources are, our personal resources, and the resources that we can access in asking for help and asking for support. So, big jump into who are you and what have you got? You know?
Understatement.
So anyway, from there, you know, life takes on its journey, lots of different jobs and so forth. But what brought me to yoga was, again, a fire, an earthquake, a hurricane in my life. My husband was showing signs of cognitive decline, which was something that was in the family history with other children, older siblings that he had. And this continued, and he was ultimately let go from his job and diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, dementia, which pulled the rug right out from under me. And it took me a while to find that depth of strength again. And I was frightened, and I was angry, and I was I didn't know what to do. And I started drinking, and I had always enjoyed, you know, wine and so forth, but I started drinking. And
may I ask, how old were your children at the time?
Let's see. Yesterday was the 9th anniversary of his death. And my kids are 44 now, so they were 34.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. what happened, so that was probably it was 3 or 4 years before he died. Not even. My linear time frame is not good. But anyway, I found myself going down a very dangerous rabbit hole. And I did a lot of drinking. I did a lot of complaining. I did a lot of, it's not fair. I was also dealing with my father, who was living alone. My mother had died, I don't know, years before, maybe 10 years before. He went into congestive heart failure. And so he was in a nursing home recovering from a pacemaker. And my daughter had had a child, and I had promised to take care of the baby while she was going back to teaching. So I had a 6-month-old. I had a father in a nursing home recovering from the pacemaker. And I had a husband who was diagnosed and lost his job. And my response was to go back to old coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And clearly that was not serving me. Mm. And one night I had what I would call the dark night of the soul, where I realized that if this did not stop, I would not be able to support all the people who needed my support. Mm-hmm. And the motivating factor, honestly, was attaching this behavioral change to a value that was higher than myself. And that was my love for my children and what I was modeling for my children. How do you live life when things get really hard and really scary? And these are the kids that I had to be so strong and resilient for when I was pregnant and raising them.
Right.
Huge, motivating, beautiful factor in my life. And so one night I just hit this and I said, that's it. And that was 12 years ago. And I have never had a drink of alcohol since then.
So that night, as of the day following, it was just like a switch?
Yes.
You just flipped the switch.
I flipped
made the choice,
switch.
made the decision, just...
Yep.
It's almost like jumping into a new timeline.
Yep.
The new version of yourself.
Absolutely. I had also picked up smoking cigarettes again, and both of them stopped that night. I never have touched in 12 years.
Wow.
But I needed something to support that change. And that, I think it was either 3 or 5 days after that night, I stepped into this studio.
And had you known about this place?
No. Interesting. My daughter lived not far from here. And she said, Mom, if you started yoga again, you would never look back.
Wow.
And she said a studio opened up near me, and we've been there and we like it. And she'd only been open for 3 weeks when I walked in. So I kind of feel like I was born here. I walked into that Earth studio to take my first yoga class, and there were mirrors all against the wall. We've gotten rid of those. But I remember looking at myself going, oh my God, who is that? You know?
You had done yoga before that?
I had done yoga in a gym situation.
Okay.
But I knew that it was, I knew that there was a depth there that I could connect with. I had also been very involved with, I've always been a kind of a spiritual seeker. And I read the book, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. And that book became my Bible. I actually didn't read it. I listened to it on CDs, and I wore out the CDs in my car.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when somebody finally gave me the book and I read it, I had it all on audio in my head, and I could hear Eckhart Tolle reading that book to me. But the interesting thing is that it was all intellectual. It was all in my head because I was drinking, and I wasn't clear, and I was resistant, and I was angry, and I was fearful. But I had all of this that I knew was the nourishment. I knew it was the nourishment. But it wasn't until I stopped alcohol and I came in and I started using my body. It was like it was a download. Everything that had been up here went into my heart. I've got goosebumps, into my heart, into my blood, into my bones, into my breath. It sustained me and nourished me, and it started my my further self-study and education into, so many deep thinkers and beautiful writers and poetry. And I mean, oh my God, my bookshelf now, I still have Eckhart Tolle's ragged little book all wound up with string and the pages falling out.
Oh my gosh.
And then it's right on the front of my bookshelf, but then all the books behind it and all their, all the titles and all the poets and everything. And it just started something so beautiful. I started my practice here about a year after my husband was diagnosed and had lost his job. So I spent a year sort of in the doldrums and kind of, and then when I came here and started my practice, everything just started glowing and flowing and was just really nice. And that was just 3 weeks after I stopped drinking. So anyway, I decided then that if there was ever teacher training here, I wanted to do that. So I did the first teacher training segment that was ever taught here, ever offered, and started teaching right afterwards. So I walked in here 12 years ago, and I've been teaching like 10 years, or I don't know. I walked in, my linear time frame is really bad, but it kind of goes like that. So my teaching definitely comes from this deep connection with the hard times, the suffering, the pain, the heart cracked open wide, that allows us to transcend to something that we know is there. It is always there within us, that beautiful essence, that beautiful light, and it just gets messed up. It gets messed up. And we have habits that continue to kind of cover it and tarnish it. And I look at yoga and the breath and the movement of the body like polishing off that tarnish and just letting it just shine out again. So for me, it is so much fun to teach, and I teach beginners because I love to get people who are like, I can't believe I walked in here. I can't believe I got myself out of the car. I can't believe it. Okay, I'm on my mat. Now what? And I want to just say, you are so safe. You are so safe. Let's go.
Your class is such a blessing to me because I had experience in yoga, but I had been away from it for so long.
Yeah.
So to have a beginner class was what I physically needed, because my body forgot how to do it. It was so removed for years. But it wasn't just the beginner part. It's the healing on so many levels that go beyond a handful of poses. And so that's why I said I need to share this class with all of my friends, because they have no idea what they're missing, because it's not about, a friend of mine is coming, another friend of mine is coming to try the class as well. And I said, it's not about poses.
No,
It's not about the poses.
No, I always say it's not about the hamstrings.
Yeah.
Yoga is not about the hamstrings.
No. It's not about what
it's about the heartstrings.
Oh gosh, it is so much more, so beyond that. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. So what would you say to someone who says, I'm a beginner. I'm beyond beginner. I'm before beginner. What's pre-beginner? And I want to try a yoga class, but I, like my husband or anyone who says they have no flexibility. I'm not flexible. I can't even begin to think of attending even a beginner yoga class.
Well, the way that I've structured my class, the sequence of my class is very all body friendly. I have all different ages, all different sizes, all different physical attributes, everybody in my class. It's wide ranging, you know that. And a lot of, well, I don't want to say that. Anyway, yes, I have a great diversity of people in my classes, and that's the way I've set it up. And the sequence is the same, just about the same in every class, so that once you've gotten through the first one, you're on easy street. It just gets easier from there on. And when you're not thinking so hard about everything that's happening in the body, you can start to come into how that's working together with the mind and the spirit and the breath. So I would just say, meet us on the mat, you know. And there are a lot of very seasoned practitioners that come to my class. And I love it when I have people who have never done yoga before. And I'll say, we have people in the class who have never done yoga before, and we are all each other's teachers. And the seasoned practitioners are going to swoop you up, beginners, and take you along like a school of fish. Because it is. It's a community. So it's fun.
You have a way of, I want to say giving permission, but it's not giving permission. It's just allowing, you're meeting everyone where they're at, and you word things in such a way where I'm guarantee I know everyone feels successful in that room, no matter what level they're at or where their body is at. Everyone feels successful because you set it up that way.
Yeah.
Everybody feels the freedom and the allowance of, oh, I can do it the way my body does it.
Right.
And it's encouraged and it's necessary and it's okay. And, oh, I belong here.
Right.
I can do this.
Right. And if you walk into my class, you will see all different kinds of people. And you will be comfortable. There is someone there where you'll go, yep, that person looks like me.
I remember there was someone in class that had a foot boot, a cast or something.
Yeah.
And he was right in the front of the room.
Right.
There every week.
Yeah.
No problem.
I had a woman who brought her crutch in the other day because she just wanted to get back in. So, and I'll just say sometimes if you're not, if your body isn't able to do it, just come sit in the back of the room or lie down and just absorb the energy.
Yeah.
So
just be in the room. Just sit there.
Yeah. So anyway, my teaching definitely comes from my own experience of how this practice can help you heal and grow and accept yourself where you are and allow it to unfold from there.
and to trust, to surrender and trust, and know that no matter how traumatic it may feel, if you listen to yourself, which is easier said than done, it'll be okay. And that's a hard thing to believe when you're in the thick of it. But if you surround yourself with that type of energy and that type of mindset, and it gives you hope.
Absolutely. And I really get that. I'm, boy.
Yeah, not knowing your story, but being a participant in your class, I knew you had a very profound story that allowed you to teach the way you teach.
Yeah. Well, just to continue that a little bit, I came in and began teaching. My husband was at home. He was at home for 6 years in this, kind of beautiful world in his own mind that he lived in. And I had started teaching, and then things began to get dramatically worse for him. And at one point he had fallen and I couldn't get him up, and I had to call the EMTs, and he went to the hospital, and it was discovered that completely unrelated to the dementia, he had developed glioblastoma, brain cancer.
Oh my gosh.
So that changed the trajectory of this, of how it was going to unfold for him. He was given 6 months to live. And I took him home. We had a hospital bed in the bedroom. He was paralyzed on one side of his body, so he never got out of that bed. The glioblastoma had gone in and just wreaked havoc with his nervous system. So obviously I didn't teach for those 6 months, but my family, we were just amazing. We just did this whole hospice thing in my house. And I have to say, those were some of the most beautiful days of my life. They were so valuable and so precious, and I knew exactly what my purpose was, and there was no distraction. There was nothing that could take me out of that, and my family as well. And it was quite an amazing growth, as a family unit, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother. And
Were you all with him when he passed?
Yes. As I said, it was yesterday was 9 years, and it was a day like this. It was kind of windy, November, and he was suffering so badly. And I just remember I went in and I opened up the window and I said, "Bob, this is the kind of day we love. You gotta go now." And I opened the window and we all gathered round, and he just very gently passed. But yeah, it's just amazing.
I had a very similar experience with my mother. The hospice experience, and sitting with her and saying, "You can go now. I'm okay." And I watched her body as she left.
Yes.
So I know that feeling. I can't believe we had something very similar.
Yeah, it's something that you never forget.
It's horrible and beautiful at the same time.
It is. It's horrible and beautiful at the same time. That's something to remember about everything it can be horrible and beautiful at the same time.
It's such a privilege to have a painful, beautiful experience.
Yes.
Like you said, you knew your purpose in that moment.
Yes.
And you almost don't wish that pain on anyone.
Right.
But when you see it from the other side, you say, thank you for allowing me to be with that person as they crossed over. Thank you for giving me the honor.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
I know. I know.
you brought me right back to
Yeah.
saying goodbye to my mom.
Yeah.
In that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I could literally keep talking to you for hours. Can we also, is there anything else you want to share after that? After that happened, you kept going with your children, with your family. You shared with me, and I don't know if I'm jumping into I'm skipping something that's very important to share, so you tell me. I'm very curious about how you shared with us in class that you walked the Camino. When did that all happen?
That happened maybe 2 years after he died. Yeah, about 2 years after he died. And I had started to...
Well, first, before,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but before, in case anybody doesn't know, can you explain what the Camino is?
Sure, absolutely. The Camino is, I went on what they call the French Camino, which starts in southern France and goes all the way across northern Spain to Santiago. And it's 500 miles. You walk the entire distance with a backpack on your back and sleep in albergues, little hostels, bunk beds along the way. You are just with yourself and other people that you meet and say goodbye to all along the way. 33 days is what it took me. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I had just started to want to travel after he died. And I had heard about the Camino, and so I just decided to do it.
And you just went by yourself?
Well, I started with someone, but I didn't end with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What I'm really curious about, I mean, I'm sure there are so many stories related. We might do another episode. Because what I would look for is, did you feel communication from your husband during that journey?
Wow, what an interesting question. It was the very first time I had ever had my ancestors speak to me. And I mean, that was just sort of mind-blowing. I was, probably the second day out. And the Camino starts quickly. You're climbing.
Oh, wow.
And you're climbing the Pyrenees, and you haven't gotten your breath, you haven't gotten your legs, you don't know what you're doing. It's like when you first get your driver's license, you're like, whoa, I'm driving a car. Like, whoa, I'm walking the Camino. And you're going up, 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 and you're in snow and all this. And I remember having this, I just knew that all of my ancestors, and including Bob and my mother and my father, who had both died previously, were around me, and I heard them saying, come look, there's one of ours.
Oh,
I know. There's one of ours.
Oh my God.
Doing this amazing thing all by herself. There she is. And I never felt alone. And it's kind of funny. My mom was a big cheerleader for me. She was always like, you can do it, you go. I'd run a 5K or something. She'd be at the end, yay. And my dad was always warning me to be careful, know what's happening around you. So, and Bob was he believed in me and anything I set my mind to more than anybody that I had come across before in my life, which is why I married him and why it was a lot of fun to be with him. But anyway, I can remember my mom, I see it, it's like it's happening. I'd be climbing the big hill with this pack on my back. And I would see my mom up at the end going, there she is.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd be walking on a road where cars were going, and my dad would be in my mind going, be careful, look behind you, don't step out in the traffic. And my husband would be saying his favorite line to me, you know what you're doing, CA. You know what you're doing, CA. Anytime I had a doubt about myself, he would say, you know what you're doing, CA.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So yes, my ancestors were all around me during the Camino.
Wow.
If anybody ever gets a chance to take a month or so, 6 weeks out of their life and do something life-changing, that is a beautiful experience. It is the highlight of my adult life, outside of children and marriage and all of that beautiful stuff, a self-chosen epic.
Right?
It was very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, I might have you come back. There's so much to share. So much.
We all do.
Yeah.
Every single one of us has a big, beautiful story to tell.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody, tell your story.
Yeah.
Tell your story. Everything you've been through, everything you've done, all your trials and tribulations are nothing but a spark to light the fire under someone else. It's just so true.
I was going to ask you, what if you had one thing to share with someone, one lesson you could share, one piece of advice you could share, what would it be? And I think you just did it.
Well, that's a big one, to tell your story. But I think we've already kind of tapped into one, and that is, there's beautiful inside horrible, and the beautiful never lasts, for everything's ephemeral. Everything you feel, everything you're going through will not be going on forever. And to remember that and kind of live with whatever's happening and be open to energies coming in and going out. I kind of call it living with the doors and windows open wide, the eyes open wide, the heart open wide, the perspective open wide. Keep everything open, so you're not closing down. You don't have armor locked around you. Sometimes we want to go into that. We want to be protective, and we need to sometimes. But then you got to take a deep breath, and you can just feel everything start to open up. And that's just, keep the breath moving and keep the body moving and keep life moving in and out and in and out, and realize that, one of the stories I told about the Camino was about the
You can swear.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll try to make the story a little bit shorter.
I was thinking of that quote right before you said it, so yeah.
Where I was walking along and I hooked up with a gal who had wet socks and blisters on her feet and, not wholly happy about her moment in life right then. And we were walking along through a road that went through farms. Actually through the farm. So there was cow dung around and houses and barns. And I'm trying to kind of tell her that, well, it won't always be like this. And we were actually talking about the Wizard of Oz, and I said, yeah, the blisters of the flying monkeys, and the pretty soon, Glinda's going to come along, and there's just going to be something beautiful that comes along. And out of a doorway comes this beautiful, soft, apron-clad, white-haired woman with a plate of fresh sugared crepes. And so I go, look, it's Glinda. And we go and we take the sugared crepes and we step away so other people can kind of get in line and drop a couple coins in her pocket. So we've stepped into the road again, and I look down as we're biting into our sugared crepes, and there's a big pile of cow dung on the road. And I said, look, just look. They're never far apart, the sugar and the shit. And seriously, you can clean that up and you can say the bitter and the sweet or whatever if you want to use that for your family. But when I remind myself that the sugar and the shit are never far apart, when I'm knee deep in it, it makes me laugh. And humor is really, really good when you're in the shit. So
we needed that quote.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, just to constantly remind yourself that everything's ephemeral. Everything comes and goes. You can deal with birth and life and death and beauty and art and music all at the same time. You can be in this beautiful swirl of beauty and joy and agony and grief all at the same time. I think it's really important to keep that background of joy, just like a little white noise, a little hum in the back of your mind that you never let go of. Just keep that.
Well, this is exactly why I wanted you to come on here with me, because you give me hope. Yeah. You remind me that we have hope. You remind me that it's all temporary.
Yeah.
It comes and goes, ebbs and flows. So thank you for the reminders, for the uplifting, for being so relatable, and reminding me that we all go through our version of the bitter and the sweet, and we're all one, and we're all experiencing all of this together.
We are.
When one is up, one is down, and that's when we need each other.
Right. And we light each other's candle along the way. And that's what you're doing with this. It's a beautiful candle that you hold up, and people can come and listen and get a little nugget of something that makes them just spark again. Just spark again and keep that light. And that high frequency vibration is communicated and it's catching. If you can lift the vibration of where you are, and it benefits everyone who's in your sphere. Your sphere of influence may not be great. You may not reach out beyond the boundaries of your own home, your own neighborhood. It doesn't matter. If you keep your light up, it just helps others keep their light up. And that is what we need more than anything in this world. High vibration, high frequency, beautiful lexicon. Let your words reflect what's in your heart. The language that you use
is literally creative.
Oh, it creates the world that you live in.
Literally.
It literally does, because if you start really being aware of the language that you use, the voice in your head will begin to use that language, and you speak to yourself in such more encouraging, helpful, high frequency, beautiful, you got this. You got this.
And you never know where it's going to lead.
You don't. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Because of what we each went through.
Yeah.
And we're all here now.
We're all of us here sharing something, and what we feel is universal. Know that. You are never alone. Your feelings are felt by millions of people. You're human. You're going to ache. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be angry. You're going to feel every single thing. What I try to tell myself, and this actually came to me in a dream, was kind of funny, but it was like a little guru guy, and we were, I don't know, doing something, and then we both decided it was silly. And he said, yeah, all you have to remember is love, truth, and beauty.
Well, then that's what we're going to end. Because that's the perfect way to end.
Love, truth, and beauty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation.
This was such a joy, such a treat.
Much. I loved being here with you. I loved learning more about you as well. And how similar we are.
Oh, boy.
All of us.
Yeah.
How similar we are.
Yeah.
How our stories dovetail. Mm-hmm. And how we can help one another when we're down. And how we can boost each other up. And how we can not be afraid to show our vulnerability. So that when others are down, they don't think, I need to hide this.
Right.
No, you come right out.
We're not alone.
We're not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you ever have the opportunity to come to Fitchburg, Wisconsin, to Perennial Yoga and experience this in person, I hope that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna go cry now.